Morality plays a role in all of our lives. We never restrict ourselves to examining only what we are doing, but we also care about what we should be doing, or oftentimes what other people should be doing. When you consider morality and the market, people have different opinions. Some believe that the market, gentle commerce, has made us more peaceful. Our morals have thereby been softened. Others think that the market corrupts our morals. So what would Hayek say? I'm Scott Nelson with the Austrian Economic Center and Hayek Institute in Vienna, Austria, and I figured that we're going to kick off this year with a series of videos looking at morality and the market. So I have no idea just how many videos will be a part of this series on morality in the market, as to be perfectly honest, I'm just figuring this out as I go along. But morality is important to all of us, including economists. And although Hayek's philosophical concerns were more often related to the abuse of reason and the role of the state vis-a-vis the market, his reflections lend themselves to a discussion of morality. And finally, it's important to discuss morality anyway, since corrosion or corruption of any order is inevitable, and the only thing that can sustain it are certain morals. And what makes this discussion in general so interesting is the prejudice that holds that morals and free markets, in other words, capitalism, are somehow incompatible or contradictory. And I would suggest that this is one of the many reasons for the prejudice against capitalism. For many people, something just seems fundamentally wrong with the capitalistic notion that private vice can be turned to public virtue. As Bernard Mandeville put it in 1714 in his famous Fable of the Bees, "The root of evil avarice, that damn ill-natured baneful vice, was slave to prodigality, that noble sin, whilst luxury employed 1,000,000 of the poor, and odious pride 1,000,000 more. Envy itself and vanity were ministers of industry. Their darling folly, fickleness, in diet, furniture, and dress, that strange, ridiculous vice was made the very wheel that turned the trade." If this whole way of thinking seems somehow wrong, it's because we often like to think that our good convictions, or our good intentions, or our good laws are always translated into good deeds and good outcomes. Sometimes the potential dissonance between intentions and laws on the one hand, and outcomes on the other, has led people to emphasize the one to the exclusion of the other. The pacifist who refuses to fight, whether to save his country or even to save his own family, adheres to the former morality. He solves his conscience and honors his convictions regardless of the consequences. As for the latter morality, namely moral consequentialism, it's perhaps best summed up by that famous phrase, "the ends justify the means." But in reality, most people tend to care about intentions, convictions, laws, and their deeds and the consequences of their deeds. There's plenty of room for tension between all of these things in our actions. So without pretending to address all of that here, as I said at the outset, I'll be tackling several aspects of morality in the market in successive videos. Let's just see how we can begin to cut into this issue. In 1961, Hayek gave a talk called "The Moral Element in Free Enterprise," in which he would agree with the comment I made earlier about that our order, let's say the liberal democracy and capitalist order that we live in right now, he would agree that our order requires certain morals to sustain it. In fact, he sees a direct connection between morals and freedom. So what does Hayek mean here? Recall in a previous video that Hayek's definition of freedom or liberty amounts to the absence of coercion. And you can only be coerced by other people, not by general laws or by circumstances. If you are coerced to do something, even if it's something good, you're not acting morally. So for Hayek, a moral action by definition must be freely chosen. because then you are able to take responsibility for your action, and therefore receive the praise or blame that you deserve. So freedom is of the utmost importance for Hayek. He disagrees, in fact, with the idea that people must first be moral before they can be free. As he says, if men are to wait for liberty till they become wise and good, they may indeed wait forever. But he is just as well aware that a free society requires certain strong moral standards or virtues in order to be sustained, and that it's always possible that a free society might produce moral standards of another kind that could erode freedom and the basis of moral values themselves. So which morals are needed in a free society then? Well, Hayek names two, and I quote, belief in individual responsibility, and, a long one here, the approval as just of an arrangement by which material rewards are made to correspond to the value which a person's particular services have to his fellows, and not to the esteem in which he is held as a whole person for his moral merit. Okay, so the first one, the short one, individual responsibility, helps foster our sense of initiative and circumspection. It's key for Hayek that we not always try to blame other people or structures for our faults, because God knows we're certainly keen to credit ourselves for our own successes. Now, in regards to the latter moral, Hayek is saying that we don't know what actors know, and so we can't decide whether their decisions were justified or whether their success or failure was due to their effort and foresight or just simple good luck. Therefore, we must look at results and not intentions or motives, and can allow people to act on their own knowledge only if we allow them to keep what their fellows are willing to pay them for their services, regardless of our estimation of whether this reward corresponds to moral merit. Now, it will sound here that Hayek is something of a moral consequentialist, but do bear in mind that he's talking about what standards we should adhere to in terms of material rewards for people's actions, not moral merit. Because he goes on to say that one of the great merits of a free society is that material reward is not dependent on what people think of us personally, or what they think of our principles or religion or manners, and that this is actually a good thing, because it means that moral pressure can be applied to us only by those whom we esteem, and not through the allocation of material reward by an authority. Our conduct, then, should be guided by our desire for esteem, but our rewards should be based on providing to people what they want. And perhaps this discloses another reason why the market seems to clash, for many people, with morality. We want personal esteem and material success to be the same thing. Something just seems wrong when good people are poor, or when bad people are rich. For some, Hayek's tolerance of the split between material reward and moral merit could be considered an injustice. Of course, Hayek's concern is that an attempt to resolve this tension through coercive state action is bound to produce an outcome worse than the problem it was meant to solve. Even if this weren't the case, there still is no universally accepted notion as to what constitutes a good person versus a bad person, or rather, which specific individuals we would call good or bad, not to mention a standard by which we could determine the level of material reward to be accorded to these specific individuals. Again, this is not to say that Hayek considers the question of moral merit to be irrelevant, quite the contrary. He's all in favor of individuals in society speaking in terms of praise and blame. More to the point, he endorses that pressure of praise and blame that holds people accountable for their conduct, and argues that this is a precondition for a successful free enterprise society. And it's only in such a society, remember, that moral action is possible. For the free enterprise society is concerned with means, but not with ends. The ends The morals are up to us. And that's what Hayek would say. You know what's funny about this banner here is that it doesn't matter where you move, his eyes always seem to be following you, no matter where you are in the room. You know, it's one of the most mesmerizing and also creepy things. Anyhow, everybody, thank you for checking out this video. We put a lot of work into these videos, so we hope that you're really enjoying them. If you have been, then please feel free to suggest a topic that you'd like us to deal with in a future video. We take all sorts of suggestions, and Hayek has a lot to say about all sorts of different things. And, most important of all, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.